You might call it a crisis, a shift, or an unconscious rebellion. But right now, something significant is happening. Men are quietly pulling back, not out of spite or bitterness, but out of exhaustion. They're not arguing. They're not making scenes. They're simply stepping away from the chase, and no one seems to notice. Look closely. The texts they used to send first have stopped. The elaborate date plans? Gone. The constant effort to fix what kept breaking? Vanished. It's not because they stopped caring. It's because they realized this. Investing deeply when the return keeps shrinking is a losing equation. For years they were told, do more, earn more, be more. And many men listened. They leveled up their careers, sharpened their style, improved their conversation. Still somehow, it never felt enough. Just when they thought they had arrived, the bar moved again. Now those same men who once dreamed about a meaningful partnership, commitment, marriage, are sitting alone. Simple apartment, quiet, no chaos, no confusion. And that silence? It feels better than the love they were sold. Because the version of modern relationships many men face starts to feel like a debt. You give your time, your loyalty, your emotion, and you're still told you're not enough compared to someone taller, richer, flashier, more exciting. So what happens? The men stop playing the game. They stop auditioning for roles they never applied for. They stop chasing people who treated them as interchangeable. And here's what's crucial. When men stopped chasing, they found clarity. When they stopped proving, they found strength. When they stopped dating, they found peace. But here's the truth. People rarely say, men didn't just give up on dating, they gave up on being chosen. Because when every conversation is a test, every relationship a transaction, every show of love an obligation, the heart stops showing up. This isn't about bitterness, it's about recognition. It's about a generation of men looking at the dating marketplace and quietly saying, no thanks. I'd rather be alone than be drained. The shift. This change didn't explode overnight. There were no rallies, no hashtags, no mass movement. It happened quietly. One skipped message, one cancelled plan, one I'm not sure text at a time. Men realized they could show up and still go nowhere. They discovered good intentions meant nothing if the system rewarded only performance. And they saw how sincerity became invisible while games became the currency of attraction. Conversations stopped being simple. They turned into interviews. Men used to walk into a date hoping for connection. Now, they walk in wary of evaluation. What test do I have to pass? The change is subtle, but everywhere. They stopped messaging first, not to manipulate, but because they were tired of starting conversations that ended in silence. They stopped planning dates, not because they weren't interested, but because every plan felt like an audition. They stopped impressing, because every attempt to shine felt like a job interview for a role they didn't want. What they started to realize, being wanted is not the same as being valuable. And you don't need someone choosing you if you start choosing yourself. The vanishing value of effort. There was a time when effort counted, when showing up meant something. Somewhere between filtered selfies and highlight reels, effort lost its meaning. Men kept giving, but the gratitude stopped returning. Open a door, rolling eyes, kind words, labeled cringe, a well-planned date, posted online without mention of him. Effort became expected, loyalty assumed, silence misread as weakness. Men stopped asking, why keep giving in a system that never acknowledged it? They weren't broken, they were waking up. Effort should not be a currency owed. It should be a gift freely offered. When it becomes a debt, something inside you dies. So they stopped. They withdrew quietly. not because they stopped being good men, but because being a good man went unnoticed. You can't break a man by rejecting him. You break him by making his efforts meaningless, and that's exactly what's happening. The modern dating illusion love used to mean connection. Now it's competition. Swipe right, swipe left, match, ghost, repeat. Dating turned into a numbers game, not a human meeting. Men noticed the shift fastest. They saw their chances shrink while the pressure rose. You're not meeting a person anymore. You're auditioning for attention. In a world where everyone is a product, being human disappears. When attention is currency, the ones who get less stop spending it. And so men stop showing up where effort doesn't count. They said, why choose one if options remain infinite? Why invest deeply if you're just another swipe? So they quit, not because love failed, but because the system was rigged. They started seeking peace instead of validation. They pulled away, not because they hated relationships, but because they hated the version of them they were asked to perform. The peace they found. At first, being alone felt like loss. Silence echoed. Space felt too wide. But then something unexpected happened. Quiet stopped being empty. It became steady. No more late-night check-ins. No more obsessive worrying. No more drama-driven texts. His phone sits face down. He lifts weights, reads, builds, creates. Because he realized validation doesn't drive him. Purpose does. This isn't anti-relationship. It's self-ownership. He didn't trade love for solitude. He traded performance for presence. When he experienced that kind of calm, he realized something. A man at peace is more magnetic than a man chasing love. He doesn't beg. He doesn't bargain. He simply exists. Grounded. Whole. Undisturbed. And that kind of energy changes everything. A new reality. Today's culture doesn't know what to do with this shift. When men step back, they get labeled, broken, cold, uncommitted. But maybe they aren't emotionally unavailable. They're emotionally disciplined. Here's the truth. You can't shame someone who isn't seeking approval. You can't control someone who isn't afraid to walk away. Men are not rejecting women. They're rejecting a system that told them worth came from performance instead of presence. They're done proving. They're done chasing. Because the man who walks alone isn't lost. He's just found a path others weren't brave enough to take. So if you ask him, "Are you lonely?" he'll smile, then say, "No, I'm at peace." And he'll put his phone down, breathe, and get back to building a life no one can take away.